Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Kevin with the Local Search Association. I would like to welcome all of you to LSA's webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Optimizing the Impact and Reach of Video Advertising for SMBs and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Olivier Katz with Blue Pixel Media. With that, let's get started. Over to you, Olivier.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar today. Before we start, I thought I might provide a little bit of background about who I am because I think it'll provide some context to this presentation. I was for a great many years a producer in film and television and then went into the commercial production business. Owned a few production companies, both on the live action and animation side, and then owned an agency as well. And then evolved into the brand side. I was actually helping Fortune 100 companies develop best practices for production and media, ways to streamline the process, be more efficient. And so I have seen video advertising from many different facets, and I hope this presentation will provide sort of different perspective on this marketing tactics. So video, as my deck is freezing here, my apologies. Video really can mean a lot of different things to different people, and of course, first and foremost, it is a technology, but it's so much more, and it really does have a lot of different meanings, and the key is to identify all of the different layers and topic of conversation around video, and particularly video advertising. And hopefully today we're going to try to bring some order to what otherwise would be a somewhat chaotic process. And so first and foremost, there are essentially 5 topics of discussion with video advertising. Media, the format, content, duration, and execution, and we are going to try to tackle all 5 over the next few minutes. The key to video advertising is essentially, well, at least some of the answers may very well lie in the best practices from national brands. And over the time, certainly over the last few decades, national advertising has dominated the space. But actually, it's projected that in 2017, local advertising will be 3 times larger than that of national brand advertising. Now, admittedly, this number of 148 billion is not just strictly about video advertising. It is about general advertising, local advertising. But the ratio of video advertising is certainly growing in regards to local SMBs. And while the local space is now dominating the local marketing is dominating the space, the national brands have been doing this for quite a while, and we probably could borrow from some of their best practices. And so the best practices can be defined in these 6 topics. It starts with defining marketing objectives. And that's true of national brands. It should be true of SMBs. Identifying target audience, setting the reach or the goal benchmark, which leads to selecting the media tactics, finally executing the creative, finding ways of leveraging asset to maximize the reach and the efficiencies and the ROI of production, and then finally being able to optimize. These are the 6 main functions in any video advertising strategy, and again, whether it applies to national brands or local SMBs. So the first objective is actually defining the marketing objective, and in our case for SMBs, it's about delivering hyper-local consumer reach. I mean, SMB marketing is local marketing. So every decision needs to point to a local consumer reach objective. So media is the conduit to local consumer reach. Media should always lead the conversation in planning a marketing campaign because it is, again, the conduit to reaching the goal. And so, while media requires a conversation in itself, I guess we'll come back to that in a moment, and go to the second important step, which is identifying the audience. Who is the audience? Clearly, from a demographic perspective, can be identified broadly or in very narrow segments, meaning that you could think of reaching a demo 18 plus as a very broad objective, or narrowing it down to 18-34 males, for example. From a geographic perspective, again, there's a spectrum of how targeted a campaign can be, from a major DMA versus a single zip code, and anything in between. And then the psychographic element, obviously, is a third layer. It doesn't always apply, but as a way of example, everyone needs a plumber, but not everyone needs mountain climbing gear, for example. The where is the audience is also part of the conversation, and naturally there are a lot of subset of these three categories, but there are three main categories of general media, which basically is TV, online, mobile. The search media, which is search directories, search engines, and the business website. And then of course social media is something we all understand, and and the why reach the audience is also a very important part of the conversation. It really is about, it should really be more like, what is the mindset of the audience being reached? And so there are three I to advertising: inspire, inform, and influence. And inspire is more of a lean back experience or environment where, for traditional media. Inform tends to be more relevant to lean forward behavior on the part of consumers, particularly as they search. And then of course the influence is when the audience is in a more receptive state and in a social context. But these are the kind of decisions or consideration that need to be part of the process. The next one, set consumer reach goals, the fundamentals of advertising. I mean, the greater the reach, the bigger the results. And so it is important to define the consumer, the sort of the consumer connection currency. And in this case, because it's video, it's always views. So views are essentially the first step of the consumer marketing funnel. From awareness to consideration and conversion. So it starts with views. And it's really essential, if the views are the currency, to quantify the views in order to meet the goals. And SMB expect results to validate their marketing investments. And it starts with consumer awareness and identifying to the SMB that a video would be seen, as a way of example, 100,000 times, is a great place to start in developing a video strategy, advertising strategy. Selecting media tactics, critical. And actually, we could think of it as two main categories. Whether the audience is brought to the video, or whether the video is brought to the audience. These are fundamental differences that demand very different tactics. So if we think about, from a media perspective, the instances where an audience comes to video, naturally that's true of the directory space and search space, and the business websites as well. As a contrast, the instances where video can be brought to the audience wherever they might be is actually the sixth remaining main media vertical. It's a really essential part of meeting the goals. More importantly, in the area of audience coming to video, it is difficult to forecast the amount of views it would actually generate. It cannot really support a guaranteed model. Whereas video to audience certainly is an area where views can be guaranteed and delivered. So in order to support sort of the goal-reaching agenda, it is absolutely essential to execute a video advertising campaign that includes a video-to-audience component. Additionally, in the case of the audience of the video, typically what happens is that it's a sort of a sustained small flow of audience throughout the year, where certainly in the case of online and TV, out of others, you can actually execute a concentrated campaign, this concentrated reach in a very controlled time frame, which for a certain marketing objective is really essential. This is one of my favorite quotes from Bob Thacker. I'll leave you a moment to read, but basically, if you're going to crash a party, you better bring champagne. And certainly, you know, he is right about advertising in general. It is disruptive. We were exposed to it all day long. And so part of what we have to do as marketers is always try to judge the disruption as a consumer as well, to find the right balance and make the right decisions. And what it means is that we really have to think about the right video asset in the right place and at the right time. And so as a way of example, you know, there are certainly a lot of decision points across different media areas, from format to content to duration. And as I fly through this, without getting into too many details, cable and broadcast certainly are more favorable to linear content. That means a 30-second spot consumed as it airs. The actual content or the substance of the messaging, you know, should probably be branding, sometime promotional. The duration should be 30-second. And as we go through other permutation online, you could see that pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll, banners, V-mail probably demand a shorter format as well as a 30. It can also be branding and promotional. And you know, we can go through a number of other permutations, but in the interest of time, you understand the principle here as I repeat a few slides back to back. For mobile, an even shorter format makes a lot of sense, and so on. For the directory space, search and business website is where informational, tutorial, corporate, testimonial, product demo, and profile actually make more sense. And in fact, the length can afford to be a little longer. There again, the linear content makes sense in that space. But what I think was blaringly absent through this demonstration here, you've probably noticed that the execution style were actually purposely absent in our conversation so far. And yet, most conversation today about videos or video advertising are solely focused on that topic. The conversation tend to resolve around montage versus full shoot or other form of executional discussion. And in reality, it should be the last part of the creative execution conversation. But we certainly can talk about production, and production, in essence, there are several factors to consider in the decision process, whether it's live action or a post-production generated process. And again, in the interest of time, there's a lot of factors that can force a decision in that regard, and actually that could be the occasion for yet another standalone presentation about that particular topic. The bottom line is every form of production execution can be considered for any type of media, format, and duration. It is sort of the last leg, if you will, of that evaluation process. Leveraging asset is actually also could be a separate presentation, but that the overview is that media tactics precede the production process. The process needs to be centralized, so that every type of video asset, whether it's stock, live, it doesn't matter, can be assembled specifically for the media channels that have been selected and the audience it will reach. And that should be the flow of any video advertising campaign. It is the process utilized by national brands, national agencies, and should and could be the process utilized for SMB advertising. Another favorite quote of mine in regards to optimization, and it's possibly true today. A lot of people are having a little bit of difficulty discerning which part of their advertising marketing tactics is actually working. Naturally, we've come a long way since the early 20th century in regards to available data, but obviously it's critical to have access to real-time data or time-sensitive data. Again, I think this topic warrants a standalone discussion, but transparency is the key with SMBs, so that they can understand and share cause and effect of a marketing tactic versus another. It really should be the opportunity to engage in conversation with the SMB, invite them to share how they have actually recognized how a particular tactic works over another. We learn from that, we optimize the next campaign, and we keep improving on the results. So, you know, we are in the business of industrializing video advertising product, and while, you know, all of the permutation we just talked about, you know, obviously make a video advertising campaign more effective, we obviously need to bring the conversation down to sort of core media and core opportunities. So I chose cable TV and online. And in some respect, mobile is somewhat included in the online category for the sake of this presentation. So I want to talk about a few stats about media, and we'll fly through that as well. This is a staggering statistic today that essentially TV has more pull to the 18-plus audience than newspaper, radio, magazine, the internet, and mobile combined. You know, there's a perception that TV is sort of a kind of a prehistoric medium and really sort of fading. But nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, looking at some statistics here, looking at the evolution of media consumption and advertising spend from 2012 to 2017, you can see that TV advertising is still very much in the lead, keeping up with internet advertising spend, and you know, certainly there's every reason to believe that this will continue to grow. So from a behavior perspective, important statistics. You know, 8 out of 10 TV viewers are connected to the internet while watching. We can no longer think of these media channels as being sort of fragmented, segmented. I mean, I'm stating the obvious for this audience, I'm sure. Naturally, there's a whole other layer, which is the internet connected TVs and set-top boxes, the true merging of internet and television is becoming a reality, and will continue to merge further as time goes by. 53% of TV viewers say that they've responded online to a TV ad. It's pretty staggering, and actually I read recently that 33% of the audience goes online immediately after seeing an ad when they see a coupon or promotional offer, and that's a key statistic in thinking about how to actually produce video ads. So the next few stats are a little less critical, I suppose, but you know, 30% of adults are influenced by TV when making a purchasing decision. You know, advertising is about validation by association. So it really elevates for an SMB the opportunity to air on TV in the context of programming they're accustomed to watch and respect, is a form of validation that does have a long-lasting effect in consumer behavior. And in fact, 63% of the conversion rate is 63% higher when TV advertising is concurrent with online advertising. And specifically, I guess, in terms of the buying or using a product, the likelihood of the increase goes up by 50% when TV and online are used together. Briefly about cable TV, obviously the cable industry is an industry that has captured the television industry. They're coast to coast, and they actually really have the ability to geo-target a delivery of advertising down to the zip code, which I think is one of the biggest misconception about television in general. But this does provide for SMB a great local marketing solution. And, naturally from a demographic and psychographic perspective, the ability to actually select networks that have preset, well-defined demographic and psychographic audiences 24/7 does help connecting the right messaging with the right audience and continues to provide an increased value. Naturally, the online media ad distribution is actually multiple of 100 sites. Most current ad solution online, include 1,000 destinations and continues to grow. And we all understand the power of online advertising, the immediate interactive capabilities, and obviously is a critical part of any video advertising campaign, whether it's video banners or pre-roll. So general recommendation is basically, a couple of folds. Understanding your advertiser's business is critical. Whether it's understanding the seasonal cycles, the competitive index, but understanding the business provides the foundation from which you can actually follow the best practices and reach the right audience. Customizing your videos is obviously, as we've sort of just discussed, a critical part of how to make a video advertising the most effective possible. I often equate this to the real world of social interactions. We can't always wear the same thing and say the same thing and behave the same way in every social interaction, whether it's an office gathering, a friend's party, funeral, wedding. And brands really have to live to that code in media. They really need to interact with their audience at different time in different places with a slightly different sort of messaging and presence. It's really critical to understand how important it is to have that sort of relevant connection to have higher engagement and higher results. The comprehensive integrated video marketing solution is really, again, sort of going back to the national agency model, an essential part of marketing, because it offers consistency. And for the SMB, the ability to provide consistency of messaging and branding so that the results across multiple screens and devices, are higher than they would otherwise. Most publishers and directories are offering a lot of different marketing solutions. And these marketing solutions are being fulfilled by vendors who are experts in those respective fields. Sorry, I'm taking a sip of water. Thank you for your understanding. And these vendors really don't have the opportunity to consult with each other. We think that at the very least, video marketing should be seen as an integrated process to where all of the pieces, all of the different content, all of the different media decisions are managed by essentially an integrated, comprehensive process. We think this will produce higher predictable results. And I've been racing through this presentation, not realizing that 25 minutes into it, you might actually have free time you didn't expect to have. But as a final comment, this was a kind of a partial roadmap to video advertising strategy. But the success really hinge on having the experience and the skills to execute. My presentation was outlining the key to success, the simple step to success, and I guess it's a little bit like saying to an inspiring stand-up comedian that the key to success in comedy is being funny, so be funny. You know, it does require the experience and the skill to execute, and you know, we certainly at Blue Pixel have the skills and experience to help you execute the very best video advertising strategies, and we're also very funny in case you're considering a career as a stand-up. Thank you. This is the extent of this brief but I hope essential presentation.
All right, at this time, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the questions box.
Yeah, I see a couple here.
And then Olivier, feel free to go ahead and read and answer those.
So what are the methods to determine how many views over what period of time? That's actually a good question. You know, I guess there's a couple of ways to answer that question. The key to effective media solution is frequency and reach. Yeah, those are the two key words, and certainly frequency and reach should drive most decision in regards to how long a campaign should actually, you know, how long a campaign should be. And I guess the other aspect is I guess sort of the whether it's a time-sensitive campaign versus maintenance branding. For a time-sensitive campaign, clearly the time frame is much narrower, and borrowing from the film studio marketing best practices leading to a sale or a movie opening, typically the last 2 weeks are the most critical. It can ramp up to that, but sort of those would drive the decision. Naturally, the higher the number of views, the longer the campaign can be to make sure that there's enough frequency and reach, and that the ads are seen frequently enough over that period of time that it actually has enough of an impact for brand recall. What is the right mix of views across all the media channels, online versus TV? There, it's probably also a function of content. I would say that pure branding with an inspiring message probably plays better on TV and is appropriate for the TV space. Versus, for example, I guess a video banner, particularly if it's got coupon downloadable elements and promotional elements, that would certainly favor an online. If you think about digital signage or narrowcasting distribution, which we didn't really talk about much today, you can actually deliver an ad to a specific address, to a building, in either an elevator network or digital signage in the lobby, and advertising a business that's virtually across the street. So, you know, and of course, budget is a big factor as well. Some media are more expensive than others. But a good balanced approach, you know, for media is always a good place to start. Let's see, I'm seeing more questions here. How should an advertiser determine what budget to allocate to video advertising? That is a function of, well, the size of the SMB, naturally how long of a media flight SMB needs to execute, I mean, whether it's a seasonal cycle or whether it's, again, maintenance throughout the year. And then, of course, the average SMB transactional ticket per ticket is a big factor as well. And that should be entered into the equation. Let's see. So what is psychographic targeting media? Well, psychographic targeting really means that there is beyond general demographic profiles such as ethnicity, gender, age. There are a subset of audience profiles. An audience that has a particular interest in especially, I'll take outdoor, for example, or there's a number of other categories, a multitude of categories. Psychographic targeting tends to be a little more controllable online, particularly with publishers that cater to special interest audiences, and there are many. In regards to TV, networks, ESPN obviously caters to a predominantly male audience, but these are sports and enthusiasts. They are outdoor enthusiasts, and there are other psychographic subsets. So depending on the business category, that comes into play. What is the best video format to be used for broadcast TV, QuickTime HD H.264? Well, there's a number of codec available. H.264 is a standard, but there are many others. Obviously, with broadcast, the higher the resolution, the better. And so we tend to export full res files to and deliver that to the cable network. They tend to do the conversion themselves based on whatever optimization criteria they have, but we always complete our videos in full res. I thought I've read in industry media recently that consumers are spending more time online than watching TV. It seems to disagree with a slide 18 consumer. Well, I didn't come up with that statistic, and the statistic is widely available and certainly supported by a number of sources. It doesn't preclude people from spending more time online. The multi-screen usage is becoming very common. And so I'm not sure that these stats are mutually exclusive. And again, I have to rely on experts and researchers' statistics, and this is the statistics that, again, is widely available. And as a sub-note to that question, I think that very rapidly we're going to have to start accepting the fact that TV, online, mobile, we're looking at screen this day. Television will be on a mobile device. Internet is coming to TV. We are all watching more content on more screens. And this really underlines the importance of this integrated process, because we can no longer think of these silos as being different form of marketing tactics. They're one and the same. The key is, once again, to deliver the right content, the right format, the right duration, and the right production execution for the environment where it's being watched. And dynamic delivery of video is going to become the norm. So where, depending on who calls the video, certain decisions will be made on the fly to actually deliver the optimum results. And so in some respect, the statistics about who watches more what, whether it's TV or online, I think these discussions will fade away.
All right, well, great. Thanks a lot, Olivier, for conducting today's webinar. We appreciate all the great info. I would also like to thank everyone for attending today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact us at LSA, and we can connect you with today's presenter. We have more exciting webinars coming up with topics ranging from business listings to mobile advertising. Check out all our upcoming webinars at localsearchassociation.org/webinars. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.